Hi, everybody, and welcome to the second season of Do It Live. Turn it up and rip the knob off.
And rip them a new one. I'm Bill Woodcock from an undisclosed location.
And I'm James Howard from a different undisclosed location around the corner from Bill.
And as you can see, I am a proud Baltimore Ravens fan, and I have rarely been more proud than I was on Sunday when I saw my football team in London, England, exercise their constitutional First Amendment right to protest as American citizens as they stood up to the fascist wussy, wimpy, loser, small-handed, small-minded, racist, white trash, dressed up in a nice suit, president of ours, number 45, who made simple comments about the NFL players and about professional athletes in general. And we can lop those off to all the other comments he's made that have been offensive to many, many entities during the past several months while we have been on our season break. And what entities has he offended? Let me see. Women, Jewish people, Muslims, immigrants, Hispanics, pretty much anybody except for low socioeconomic status white people. And some could say middle class and even upper class white people, but he's even insulted them too. They just aren't stupid enough to know it because they think that they have secret hatred of their own banjo playing, jug blowing heritage, and they would just as well rather support this white trash hillbilly who sits in the top of Trump Tower with all the fake gold. I'm pissed off. I'm done with this fool. Done, done, done.
Tell us how you really feel, Bill.
Where is there to begin? I mean, this whole show, it has been intelligent conversation, but the national IQ has dropped by 25 points.
Well, that just makes it easier for us to do our jobs.
What's that?
That just makes it easier for us to do our jobs.
Well, it does. And by the way, I only talked about domestic issues. I mean, don't even get me going with Rocket Man and groping Emmanuel Macron's wife and saying that she's in really good shape and, you know, Putin and everything else. Robert Mueller, where are you? Please come and save us from this. I'd rather have Mr. Church Lady in Drag Pence as president week, twice on Sunday, rather than this turd.
Look, I'm going to sit here and say that there's no doubt that the president is an incompetent ass clown. I shouldn't say clown in front of my wife, but you know, she's right over there. And but
that makes this location less undisclosed.
This is true, unless you know where you are. But I think everyone knows we have red walls though, dear. So it's pretty obvious where we are. Anyway, the dude's an incompetent ass clown. We know that. The problem is the good news is he is incompetent. As I saw the most wonderful headline today, I think it was in the Borowitz report about how the Republicans are just going to have to give up on their dream of allowing poor people to live longer. And I think that that's highly reflective of the fact that Trump can't organize his own party to get anything done. I mean, they literally passed no substantial legislation in 9 months. Nothing of any merit has been passed. I mean, a bunch of post office renamings and stuff like that, and no actual legislation that had any actual bearing on anything meaningful. And the problem with Pence is Pence was a member of Congress for years. He knows how to play with it. He knows how to work it. And he's one of those people. And all of a sudden, we're going to see actual conservative policies implemented if he becomes president. The best thing for this country is to just wait out Trump.
Well, first off, I don't know if he knows how to play with it, Jamie, because I've heard that those right-wing people believe that every time you play with it, an angel dies. So I'm not sure if that's true.
I've heard in a recent survey that 95% of men admit to playing with it in the shower, and the other 5% are lying.
No,
that That may be true, but what I will say is this. So on the morning that, so this is not diversion. This is what was on the front page of the Baltimore Sun on Sunday and the front page of the Outlook section of the Washington Post on Sunday, just this past Sunday, were articles about, is the president mentally ill? Okay? Not is he a bad guy, not is he silly, not is he a racist, not is he hurting America. Is he mentally ill? Now, you and I have discussed and debated whether or not the 25th Amendment will be used, could be used. And I think I tend to agree with you. I don't really see where that's going to happen. But never in my lifetime, and I'm old enough to remember Richard Nixon, has there been front page news of, is the president mentally ill?
I'm sorry,
this is dangerous. This is what?
Who did you just say?
Richard Milhouse Nixon.
Who's that?
Google him. So he resigned. He was the guy before your favorite Gerald Ford. So
Who? You haven't even gotten to my lifetime yet, buddy.
I know I haven't, and I'm glad I haven't, because your lifetime is a mess. But this is dangerous, and this is the guy who's in charge of the nuclear codes. This is a guy who's in denial about Russian influence over the election and is threatening to send us into what could at least be a theater-wide nuclear war against North Korea. This is dangerous. That said, I understand your point, and my God, I certainly am not advocating anything other than any lawful means of addressing this president. But where does the check and balance come?
I kind of think Congress's incompetence is a pretty good check right now.
Right. Well, that's a very good point, because and you used a very good word there, which was incompetence. Because it's because of their own failure to get along and together and stand up to this ninny as an equal member, as an equal branch of government, that this guy, hasn't passed anything. I don't understand why both parties don't get together, because I would have to think it would have to happen at some time. Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell have to be willing to save their ass, because they're both getting ready to lose their asses, I think, come 2018, because a lot of people will have enough of this guy. But they have to be looking at some sort of self-preservation, get something passed through Congress that if he vetoes it, it's not gonna hurt anything. I have to wonder if this tax reform plan won't be that opportunity, because going into an election year, what does any politician want to do, regardless of party, is cut taxes.
Well, I think that, but you hit on an interesting point with regard to 2018, and that has to do with the fact that I don't know that. How do I say this? I don't know that that they're really going to have enough of them. And I think that Alabama here, the Senate election yesterday in Alabama, is a very clear example of how hard it is to interpret this, because we saw Trump supporting an establishment candidate in Luther Strange, who I still think is a comic book villain, and Roy Moore.
Dr. Strange.
Huh?
It's Dr. Strange.
Dr. Strange.
He's a comic book hero.
Dr. Strange. I'm going to put that on my business card.
I thought you already were.
So maybe Dr. the Impaler.
I don't know what you're impaling.
Oh yeah, it sounds like the worst gigolo name ever. Let's let that go for now. But anyway,
by the way, I did hypothesize something, that all newborn babies from Baltimore area hospitals should be released dressed up as juggalos.
What?
I think that would be awesome.
Okay, can we just come back to that in a minute here? And then we had Roy Moore, who is the anti-establishment candidate, and set aside the fact that Roy Moore is
Evil.
himself an incompetent ass clown.
Does not respect the Constitution, which he took and violated an oath to uphold, protect, and defend.
Nina, I'm just going to say one thing about
I'm
this.
not on this.
Get your own show. So,
The disembodied voice speaks wise.
yeah, well, that's true here.
Who is even watching you?
I don't know if anybody's. We have literally no viewers right now. So,
That's
I'm
awesome.
the only one who views it, and it would get.
Got to start from somewhere. It's season 2.
season 2. This is the worst season 2 premiere since
Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks. Who did shoot JR anyway? By the way, but anyway, Luther Strange and Roy Moore, I think, tells us a lot here because Trump was supporting the establishment candidate, and then the non-establishment candidate got picked. I think that this makes it very hard for us to figure out where this election is going to go in 2018 because nobody's really sure who's on which side on the Republican Party anymore. One of the things I think is we actually have a time. The time is now ripe for the establishment of a good middle ground third party. But the problem is anyone who has the desire inclination to start a third party is just this side of wacky. I mean, look at Ross Perot. Look at and there's a long list.
Well, who's going to bankroll a third party?
Bloomberg.
Now, so a couple points on that, and I'll get back to the third party thing in a minute. Your thing about Luther Strange, as I'll announce him on his ABC late night drama, Luther Strange. To me, I see that as typical Republican primary or any primary. If it's only 2 people or even 3 people, the race goes to the candidate who's more ideologically pure. Granted, they were both Looney Tunes, but Roy was the more Looney Tune. Therefore, he's more popular with that bunch of cranks. And Trump has already distanced himself from being buddies with Luther. He deleted the tweets. He apparently blew up at his staff. Horseface Bannon was down there, reeking of gin, I understand. Talking about his strategy to win Roy Moore that election while in between Rob Roy's. So, there's that. The other thing about a third party, now you bring up a very interesting concept. Obviously, getting on the ballot as a third party is not impossible. It has been made more difficult in some states since the Ross Perot thing in 92. But I know as of even the last election, there was talk about a Michael Bloomberg getting on the ballot and running as an independent. I don't see, so first off, I don't see anybody coming in and taking over the Green Party, the Constitution Party, the Reform Party, the Libertarian Party, and creating their own thing. What would be interesting is if this craziness ensues, that some wealthy people who would otherwise have supported Trump do decide to bankroll a third party. I'm not sure what the RNC, DNC do in terms of what they spend in order to maintain their offices and operations in DC, but you get people together who are going to be willing to throw about $500 million behind a presidential candidate who gets on the ballot in all 50 states. That $500 million plus all the free publicity that's going to emerge out of that could mean something. So who could do that? Possibly some wealthy sports team owners, possibly some tech people, possibly Mark Cuban, or even a Zuckerberg, or some coalition of about 50 pro athletes who each throw in $5 million and wreak some havoc.
Well,
Crazier things have happened, as evidenced by this last election.
That's true. Is Zuckerberg going to be old enough to run for president in 2020?
Well, I didn't say he had to be the candidate. I think, isn't he 36 now?
I don't know. Can I be the candidate? I want to be president.
You can be the candidate in 2020. I believe that if you live long enough, you will to 2020, you will be old enough.
I'm old enough now.
I said if you live long enough.
Ooh.
That's not a guarantee.
Why are you?
Only today is guaranteed.
Even that. I mean.
What? Don't be depressed. It's reality.
No, I'm trying to figure out if you're threatening me or not.
I'm not threatening you. You're threatening yourself.
Why are you threatening me?
No one's threatening you. Back on task. Third party.
Back when I worked for the Fed, I would occasionally respond because you come by the police who are guarding the door. They'd say, "Good morning, how are you?" And I would always respond with, "Stop threatening me." Anyway.
That's why you always were the host of the holiday party.
Well, working for the Fed was a very strange experience, and
was it Luther Strange?
It was not quite a full Luther Strange, but it was always cool to see Greenspan walk in the hallways. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know what we're going to have to do here. I mean, I just find this whole. Now, I think that the bigger problem, though, is not that the incompetent ass clown who is the president, but rather what he has made socially acceptable. For instance, we recently saw the sign pop up on 70 saying, "We will not be replaced." I think that the way this world is rapidly turning to eat its own young has become a very, very frightening thing.
Actually, I'm pretty sure that sign was on US 29. But there were, so for those of you who don't know what the heck Jamie's talking about, there was Facebook discussion over the past couple of days between various people in our part of the world of Howard County, Maryland, talking about a bed sheet that was hung from a local highway that said, "We will not be replaced," which was one of the rallying cries of the tiki torch brandishing yokels in Charlottesville. So right after that happened, there was a sign that said that was up on Route 70. I'm pretty sure this sign was on Route 29, though.
Oh.
And this was just a couple days ago.
Yeah, so I think that is a very difficult thing, and this ties into something I was thinking about earlier today. One of the things that really bothers me is everyone who's like, whenever somebody says, "Oh my God, this guy," all the horrible things that are happening right now, such as tiki torch wielding murderers. They're like, "Well, we suffered under Obama. I really want somebody to tell me how it is they suffered." I mean, I'm the whitest dude on earth. I did not suffer at all under the Obama presidency. It was great for me.
We live in a pretty well-to-do part of the country. I fail to understand how any of these people out here could say that they suffered under Obama at all. And, unfortunately, getting back to what you were saying, unfortunately, this area in which we live, I find an unusually fertile breeding ground for this brand of right-wing ignorance. And the reasons why I say that is because, you look at, say, here are some commonalities between alt-right Howard County and, let's say, alt-right rural South Carolina. People with a lot of time on their hands, the opportunity to wreak havoc is very cheap. There certainly is an ideological bend that already exists in that part of the country where, people haven't voted for a Democrat, haven't had a Democrat represent them in 2 or 3 decades. you know, there's a lot of similarity there. What didn't I mention? I didn't mention SES level because I actually don't think that that's as relevant. The commonality is that it's a breeding ground for ignorance. The only difference you have is that one set of people is getting checks every month off of their investments. The other set of people is getting checks every month from the state. And that's unfortunately what we have.
For the ass clowns, we were going to cut off the checks from the state.
Well, people have been well known to cut off their nose to spite their face in this country, Jamie. We know this.
Yeah, I know, but I just keep hoping that one day they'll get smarter.
And what brings them to that? What brings them to that is gets back full circle to
you know what it is? I'll tell you right now.
Expressing their constitutional right to protest this shit.
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly what my mother used to say, and that is, you can lead a horticulture, but you can't make her think.
I hate to tell you this. I've seen your mother's posts on Facebook. She seems like a very lovely woman, but that wasn't her. It wasn't her invention.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but you know.
Okay, as long as you're okay with that.
I'm okay with that, but you know, I've never actually heard anyone else ever say it.
I said it.
When?
Number of times.
You've never said it in my presence.
Probably not.
Right.
But I've heard it before, and I've said it before. So anyway, so this is where we get back to. When people understand that the things that they're doing are hurting them and that this guy is responsible, things might change. I'm happy enough to say that this week, some of the conversations I've had with people as I'm out and about the community, you know, I see people who have been Trump supporters or were Trump supporters who said, you know, I like him, I voted for him, I just wish he'd shut his mouth. You know, on CNN, they from time to time convene a panel of Trump reporters, Trump voters.
I don't think
one of them said this past week, wish he would have shut his mouth about the NFL stuff. It really is, it's kind of stupid. So
remember,
you know where we're hurting right now? You know what would be really cool? And I hate to say that because this really isn't cool. This would be horrific. We need to get some video down in Puerto Rico.
Oh,
like, what's going on with the pain and suffering and death down there? There are American citizens who are dying, and there hasn't been crap that's going on.
Well, I want to go back to what you were saying about how I wish he would shut his mouth. I think you're misinterpreting what they're saying. They don't disagree with what he's saying when they say that. What they're saying is he's not allowed to say that in public because all it is serve as a distraction. You're not seeing anybody who's actually reticent to agree with him. Now, as for Puerto Rico, yes, Puerto Rico is a horrible disaster. Puerto Rico is not able to recover from this alone. Puerto Rico already has a huge financial burden on its back, which is entirely self-imposed, but it does increase the likelihood that they will be unable to fund a recovery here. We need to find a solution for dealing with Puerto Rico now, and another one for dealing with them in the long term. Their colonial status for the last 100-odd years is just not effective form of governance for them.
I agree with you, but I also, just like in the case with the District of Columbia, I don't see that situation reconciling anytime soon. I think any Democratic candidate worth their salt should be in favor of statehood for both Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia. You know, each of these areas has had non-binding referendum after non-binding referendum or binding referendum. I think DC just had a binding referendum last year that passed, and it doesn't mean anything. It's confusing. You know, the path to statehood is not something that's very obviously known to anybody or cared about. So, you know, I agree in both of these cases. We just need to decide what we're going to do with them. You know, and I think the people, it should be left up to the people there, and the Congress should act on the will of the people of both areas. But of course, I don't think we're going to see that happen until, at the very least, the next time there's a Democratic president and a Democratic Congress, because I think Republicans are going to say, we don't want 4 more Democratic senators. We don't want several more Democratic representatives, although to say that Puerto Ricans would vote unilaterally in a Democratic bloc, I think would be a ridiculous assumption. I do believe there are some Commonwealth-wide Republican elected officials there.
So with that, it's we're 25 minutes in, so let's switch topics here for the last couple of minutes. One of the things I'm thinking about is as we've entered our second season, which we should probably be honest, is really just a cover for the fact we didn't bother with episodes for about 6 months. I think what we need to do, we need a theme song. And I'm thinking, it either needs to be the theme to Airwolf or something by Rage Against the Machine, and I'm not sure which way to go on that.
I don't remember the theme from Airwolf. Can you bring that up for a second?
I don't.
The answer is no. So if the answer is no, that's okay. I can YouTube the theme from Airwolf. Could we possibly get I'm warming to this Airwolf thing, but what would get me over would be a guest appearance by Jan Michael Vincent. It would be possible. Could you use your number of connections in the mass media, as you are the star of AM radio, and get us Jan Michael Vincent?
No. Pacifica, not AM radio. I only appear on extreme left-wing radio stations.
I'm pretty sure it's AM.
No.
It is AM.
That's radio stations in Phoenix were AM. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But I was talking about the one I did a couple of weeks ago.
Why?
I don't know. I'm still not sure why I get on these radio shows to talk about things that are, well, the flooding makes sense, since that's kind of my bag. But the one where I was talking about, like, the Purge, I still don't get. That was
every time I see on my Verizon guide that the Purge election year is playing, I do have to say I think of you.
I'm just glad to know that when you purge, you think of me.
Well, it depends on where I purge from.
Oh my! So I think with that, I think that's a good place to end tonight's episode. What do you think?
Well, and again. So we could do this next Wednesday. We can talk about that.
Let's do it next Wednesday.
Good with that, and we will. And I like the contributions from the disembodied voice. That disembodied voice has some smart things to say. We need more DV. Disembodied voice.
DVDA.
Okay, well, thank you, viewer, who I think would be named Jamie, for joining us tonight.
Thank you all, because I know at least one of you will actually be watching this on the replay. Whatever. Thank you for watching. And next time, watch us live, because we now have a group chat thing and we can see what you're saying in real time.
And just when you think you've got all the answers, we change the questions. Damn it.
It's an interesting approach. What we need to try doing a call-in show version.
Oh, that would be dangerous. Yes, we'd like to go to the Pea Eater in Ellicott City.
What? Never mind. Just never mind. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.